Well, hello, and thank you for joining me for another Alex on Tech and iTWire TV interview. It's time to welcome Shiv Ramji. He's the president of Ortho at Okta, who has come to Australia, and now I understand you're in Melbourne for the F1. Welcome to the program.
I am. Thank you for having me.
Now, I do appreciate you taking the time. Now, Shiv, you run a US $1 billion annual recurring revenue business, and you oversee product, data, security, and technology strategy. Now, you're at the center of one of the biggest unsolved problems in enterprise tech right now, which I heard being addressed at Octane 2025 in Las Vegas. I was there thanks to Okta, which I loved being there. Now, but that question is, what happens when AI agents start acting like employees, but without any of the identity controls we'd give a human? Now, we're going to discuss all this in more detail over the course of this interview. But first, can you please remind us of Okta's mission and the value it offers to customers globally in 2026?
Yeah. Yeah, let's start there. So our mission at Okta is really to free everyone to safely use technology. And when you think about this vision that we have, it really endures over time. And we started back in the day when there was this big shift to applications that were moving from what was known as on-premise technology, moving over to the cloud. And that was the birth of the large SaaS economy, or SaaS applications, the SaaS companies. And the big problem then was you wanted to make sure that your employees were able to safely and securely and seamlessly access applications in the cloud. And so that was the birth of Okta, which is we made it very, very easy to allow businesses to enable their employees to access any application in the cloud with all of the security controls that CIOs and CISOs would want, and also making sure that from an experience standpoint, any employee would log in once and will be able to access any of these applications in the cloud. Of course, that vision then is extended over the years to we provide seamless and secure experiences for consumers. So, for example, if you go log into a news website, a streaming application, you're booking your flight, or if you're going to an AFL game, all of those experiences today, especially in Australia, there's a good chance that 8 or 9 login experiences that you are having today, chances are that it is technology that is powered by either Okta or Auth0. So that's a consumer security use case. And then we have this very interesting third use case, which is we also want to provide secure and seamless access to B2B companies. So think of businesses who are then selling software to other businesses and their employees, and they also need a scalable way to provide a safe and seamless experience to those users. And so that's the third use case that we serve for. Now, this mission is very durable. We're in the midst of the biggest and fastest technology wave ever that any of us have experienced in our lifetimes, which is AI. And guess what? The problem is the same, which is in the age of AI security, you have to get identity right. And so if you think of, well, how do I get security right in the age of AI? Well, you have to get identity security right. And so our technology really extends to these new use cases, whether it's you're using LLMs or using a coding agent, or you're using a chat interface or a copilot. All of these experiences require our technology to provide a seamless and secure experience.
Now, Shiv, 90% of organizations say they're using AI agents. I mean, we hear all these various stats. MIT says 95% of these AI pilots are failing. And, according to your stats, only 10% of these organizations using AI agents have clear governance around them. Now, that's a huge gap. So what's actually going wrong here?
I think what's happened is, first, we're all really excited about what these AI technologies can do for us. And it's really, really powerful, right? Imagine the world's intelligence in your hand, and you can ask any question and get assistance and get this amazing research all at your fingertips. So we're seeing this explosion in every company wanting to use AI to either improve efficiency, to have better collaboration, to help them with their knowledge work, to help solve their customers' problems, it's, customer support, and so on and so forth. So there is a pretty, there is a lot of excitement in adopting these technologies. But one of the challenges that we've seen in the survey data, and we often talk to customers, is that from the CIOs and CISOs perspective, while they want to enable these technologies so that the businesses can benefit from them, there is concern around security. And, we are seeing the rise of, back in the day, it used to be shadow IT, if you remember that term.
Yeah.
Well, now we do have versions of shadow AI because everybody's excited to really harness the power of these technologies. And businesses do want to enable their workers and their teams to be using them, but they do want to have the security guardrails in place. And so the biggest gap that we hear from CIOs and CISOs is that they really want to make sure that they have clear security controls in place. And in this case, it's really about identity, access management, and fine-grained permissions, so that these AI agents, whether they're working on your behalf, on behalf of you as a user, or they're working autonomously on their own, that they do adhere to the principles of best, the good security practices, which is, making sure that they're following least privilege access, making sure that, they are not over provisioned and accessing data or information that they are not supposed to have. So the governance is a big blocker. And this is exactly the problem area that we are excited to solve for our customers so that they can truly enable the innovations that their teams and their businesses are looking for.
Yeah, well, and the next couple of questions revolves around scenarios that explores and explains that more clearly. So, when you've said that if an AI agent can access systems and take action on behalf of a business, it needs an identity and the same controls as any employee. I mean, you were just more or less talking about that. So, that sounds obvious when you say it out loud. So, why haven't companies been doing that? I mean, is it just because AI agents are only really finally coming into play, even though they've been around for, I guess, a few months now? This must be a welcome message that you're bringing to businesses, because they may not have seen the problem, but you explain it to them, and then it's like, well, of course, this is the solution.
Yeah, I think two things have happened. So the first one is that in the applications that you and I know of today as they exist, your front door to the application was a login box. And these applications typically were deterministic. And what I mean by that is it's kind of like applications built today are pre-recorded software, which is, teams have, let's take an internal financial portal. So, all the business teams at a company log into a financial insights portal to get, reporting on how their function or business unit is doing. And what happens typically in a scenario like that is, a product team or an internal team or a data team or the finance team has written down requirements and said, okay, we're going to produce these 7 standard reports that everybody is going to log into access to gauge the health of their business. And so the teams go ahead and create those 7 reports, and they're, probably in an internal portal, and they're behind a login. And so it's in that scenario, it's fairly simple that post login, I can set up permissions or roles in such a way that you are only going to access those 7 reports because that's all that was built. So we're moving in this, we are kind of living in this world where it's pre-recorded software. And for pre-recorded software, that there are these 7 reports, there are 7 ways to, there are these 7 access patterns you're going to have. And so you can set up roles and access controls and permissions accordingly. Now, what has happened with AI agents or AI specifically? Well, AI is intelligence. It is non-deterministic because in this same scenario of giving access to financial insights and information, well, I may have questions that fall perfectly within the boundaries of those 7 requirements, but there is a chance that I may have questions that fall outside of that. And the beauty of AI and these agents is that you actually want to harness that intelligence so that it can go and find answers for you. So it's a very non-deterministic pattern, which is you don't know what the agent will have to do. You actually don't know what systems it may want to access. You actually don't know what data it may want to access to answer the question that you may have. So it's a very non-deterministic pattern. So that's one. Second, agents are autonomous and they can go query databases, they can go query your internal wiki or knowledge management systems. It may go query file systems. It can also go out on the internet and search for answers for you. It may even talk to other internal APIs. It may actually talk to other agents or other LLMs, right? So they are fairly autonomous. So that's kind of the second thing. The third thing is agents may take, are kind of built for processing long running asynchronous tasks. And especially the newer models allow you for these agents to run for many, many hours and now even up to days. So depending on the type of questions you may have asked, it may take hours, it may take minutes, or it may take days to get you the answer. And our systems today were not designed for that type of access pattern. So that's kind of the first big thing, which is the security perimeter has changed significantly. So that is quite a bit, that's a pretty significant challenge for teams internally because they did not architect or build systems for these types of access patterns. The second thing is agents, especially autonomous agents, weren't quite there yet in terms of, working autonomously, getting you the answers, or even working autonomously in a swarm to build an entire application for you. Well, in the last 3 months, there's been a breakthrough, which is now finally you can have a swarm of autonomous agents that can work together and solve real problems with pretty good output and pretty high quality output. And the best example for this, obviously, that everybody's talking about is coding agents, right? That are building software. We've seen plenty of examples from many companies where they have swarms of agents that just go ahead and fix bugs. They will develop entire new systems, and they can be fairly autonomous. They can be triggered by just you and I just filing a simple bug report, and the systems will take it from there all the way to deploying into a production-like environment. So I would say those are the 2 big changes. First, the way we build applications has changed significantly. And then just the model and agent capability has grown exponentially, that we're starting to see these new use cases and new patterns emerge. And so I think these 2 are the reasons why I think, well, there is quite a bit of excitement, but also concerns around how do you deploy these capabilities safely within an organization.
Yeah. I mean, traditional security being built around people is still important. You badge people in, you give them a login, you revoke it when they leave. But now we have agents, AI agents, which can be forgotten about, sitting on the system, meant to be for marketing, but somehow someone's found it. And AI wants to be very helpful. It wants to answer your questions, and it can help you move laterally through a system. I mean, it's amazing what powers we give these AI agents. So these AI agents, I mean, I guess now it's going to start happening, but traditionally they haven't had a life cycle. So what does a life cycle for an AI agent look like in practice? And of course, if an AI agent doesn't have a life cycle, I mean, Okta stands ready to give them one.
Yeah, so I think first things first. We, agents in our system, they're considered like a first-class citizen of the system, or a principal, which is they're going to need all of the life cycle events that we track with humans. Typical things tend to be we refer to that as lever, mover, joiner events. We will obviously track that. Then the second thing is, you want to, about agentic patterns is that their access may need to be ephemeral, which is you may provision an agent to just access a certain piece of resource or information only for a specified period of time, the time required to do a specific task or answer a question. And that provisioning may have to be just in time. So it's what's different vis-a-vis humans is that, if you're joining a company, usually you've gone through HR systems and checks, and you are provisioned into our system through kind of the HR system, which is the system of record. And then it's very easy for me to say, well, okay, these are all the applications Alex needs to have access to, so I can go ahead and provision them in advance. But I think with agentic patterns, that is really, really hard to do because there's no way I can predict all the resources the agent is going to need to perform their job. So access needs to be just in time. Access needs to be ephemeral, which is it only lasts for the time it needs to perform the task. And then I think we certainly want to log or trace all the activities that the agent may have conducted. And this is obviously important because AI is changing a lot. And so you may want to track all the events and have a record of what the agent did, either on its own or on your behalf. And we know that, regulations haven't truly kept up. And so, industries or governments will be introducing regulations over time. And so you really want to make sure that you're tracking all of you have tracing of all the things that the agent did, because say, for instance, if some regulation were to change in a country or a specific vertical, they may be very specific reporting requirements. And so you want to make sure that you have all of the events that trace what an agent did, either on its own or on your behalf. And so if you do have to do certain types of reporting for regulated industries or governments, you're able to do that. So those are just some of the differences. And then I think in terms of, how granular the access needs to be, I think there is a pretty big difference, which is, you and I, we can be part of a role in a company. Like you and I could be part of the finance group, for example, and have access to financial information. That is really hard to do with agents because A, we're going to have lots of agents in all of our companies and systems, right? And B, they're going to have much, much granular access to information. And so you really want to design your permissioning in a way that can be really fine-grained, but also can scale because you're going to have way more agents than humans, and they're going to be doing way more work than we are able to do. And like I said, they're going to be 24/7. And so you really want to have permission systems and models that can address the security surface area and security concerns that comes with that type of a pattern.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're not giving an AI agent a defined set of rules, and it might decide to go off on frolics of its own because it's like this. It's not conscious yet, but the AI can do some weird things sometimes, and so you've got this uncontrolled access, and the whole idea of giving AI agency is to give it a type of decision authority. I mean, again, within limits that you've set for it. But we're handing this over, and I mean, you've spoken about the various ways that these AI agents can be deployed, and I guess we can guess. But what's a scenario where I guess an AI agent gone rogue can produce a bad outcome that you didn't want?
I can think about two scenarios or examples. The first one is I think this was last summer. I believe it was last summer when McDonald's had a chatbot that was processing applicants who wanted to work, who were submitting their work applications through the chatbot, and there was a breach there, a credential breach there, and that exposed applicant data to malicious actors. So that's one example of an agent implementation going wrong. Another one more recently, and this is an internal use case around coding agents. I think if I remember correctly, Amazon recently published, or AWS published, that one of their agents, went and deleted a database. And so you can see, at least in these two, in one scenario, obviously there was a breach of information and records, and in the second one, there was an action that was not the desirable outcome that the team was looking for, but the agent went ahead and did that. And so these are the only these are just some of the examples that we have seen, and there may be others, but they are not just disclosed yet if they're internal. So there's a good chance that maybe some of these issues have not been disclosed. But these are the types of things you want to monitor for and look out for, and make sure that you have the guardrails and the security mechanisms in place so that you can avoid any pitfalls such as the two examples that I shared.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one example that comes to mind from the last week is with OpenClaw, and the alignment director for
That's
Meta had tested it internally on a testbed environment, but then when she put it onto her actual own computer, somehow she said the instructions got compacted, and the instruction that said, check with me before you do anything, somehow got wiped or compressed or compacted away out of the agent's memory. And then it was deleting all her email, and she was telling it to stop through the phone. She had to run, she said, to her computer to issue a command for it to stop.
Right.
Now, that wasn't an agent that I don't think the Okta is controlling OpenClaw agents. Not yet, anyway. You might be something you want to start doing for people to try and help them, protect them against it, from their own AI agents that are out there. But, I mean, the AI agents can take action on your behalf, and it may not be the action that you want.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, Auth0 for AI agents was generally available in late 2025, announced at Octane 2025 when I was there. And you've also got, which was announced as well, cross-app access, and it's rolling out now, which is great to see. Now, when you were building these tools, what was the scariest thing that you heard from developers about how agents were already being deployed?
I think it wasn't the scariest thing. It was just, I think what we've seen with customers and the developers that are deploying this is that, oftentimes they're under a lot of pressure. So either the board is asking for, hey, what are you doing with AI? Or the executive team is asking, like, what are you doing with AI? Are you experimenting? So there's been a lot of pressure for teams to go ahead and experiment and with AI. And the number one thing that developers were raising with us was that, well, this is a lot of work. I don't want to be an AI security specialist, but I am under pressure to experiment and try these projects and see if we can get the benefits, whether it's internal or customer benefits. And so that's been the thing, which is it was less about a very specific security concern. It was more about, I have to move fast, and I already have a lot to figure out with agents themselves and LLMs, but now I also have to think about security. And so what we've done with Auth0 for AI agents is that we are taking on the burden on behalf of developers or builders who are building these agentic or AI applications. And we're giving them capabilities that allows them to secure agent access to help them have finer grained contextual permissions as to what agents can do in their system. We're giving them capabilities to safely and securely connect to third-party applications, which is a really big use case. Agents have to talk to different systems. And then finally, we know that for many transactions, but specifically sensitive transactions or transactions in highly regulated industries, you're going to want a human in the loop. So these are the capabilities we have built natively into our product, which is Auth0 for AI agents. And we already have lots of developers today because we offer it. It's free to get started. So, they're experimenting with this. And we also have customers in our self-service tier and lots of large customers who are already deploying these agents in their production environments. And so they're using Auth0 for AI agents as a capability to secure the agentic experiences.
Yeah. I mean, in 2025, there was a lot of talk about AI agents towards the end of 2025 with Octane and various other conferences I went to. You could actually see them being deployed. But it's still only 3 years since ChatGPT burst onto the scene. And I mean, 2026, we're going to see much more activity in this space, a lot more sophistication. I already see security companies wanting to secure, the agents inside of Claude, the OpenClaw system, which, because the top one was something to do with posting to X, but it actually was malware. So,
Yeah.
this is a real thing. And you've got the issue of CISOs still thinking about AI security as a data problem, leaking training data or prompt injection, that kind of thing. But it seems to be that the identity layer is where the real exposure sits. So, and I'm sure you're talking to leaders all over the place through these interviews, through your conferences, through one-on-one meetings, etc. But generally speaking, how are you making the case to a security leader who's focused elsewhere that they really have to focus on this?
Yeah. So to a security leader, there are three major problems that they are struggling with. So the first one is just visibility. So we hear this from all CISOs, which is, hey, I know there are agents in my environment. I'd like to know where they are and who's building them. So first is just visibility. So we're building capabilities to allow security leaders to have visibility to them. Then the second one is governance, and which is, are the agents that I have in my system, are they adhering to the current policies and procedures that I have in place, right? And then the third one would be remediation, which is once I know that agents are either over provision or are running afoul of my policies in place, well, what do I do? How do I remediate those issues? So those are the top three things that we're hearing from our customers, and those are the top three things that we're looking to address with CISOs and CIOs, where we want to give them visibility to where the agents are or how many agents they have in their systems. Two, apply governance if they are not already adhering to that, and just give them visibility on, where, if any, violations are happening with regards to policies. And then obviously giving them easy ways to remediate those issues. So for example, how do you revoke sessions? How do you terminate sessions? How do you make sure you don't have long-lived tokens or long-lived sessions in your systems? So these are all the types of security concerns that we're looking to address with our products.
Now, you're also working on verifiable digital credentials for AI agents, and that's planned for next year, 2027. And that's essentially giving a machine a form of ID. So, what does trust mean when you're applying it to software that can autonomously act across multiple systems?
Yeah, I think this area is still nascent and developing. I think
Evolving.
evolving. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think there are two parts to this. One is just, we believe the traditional ways of doing identity verification obviously are going to be challenged because AI has gone very good with both voice and video. And so humans clearly cannot detect what's AI or not, and certainly machines cannot either, right? So we believe here efforts such as, and this is industry-wide effort around, standards like mobile driver's license or MDL, which is a spec that allows you to have a verifiable digital credential. And you're starting to see this, here in Australia, the province, New South Wales, I know is using some of these technologies to provide services to their citizens. Actually, there's quite a few provinces here who are adopting these types of technology. Other countries are doing that. And in Europe, there is already a call for an EU-wide standard. In the US, many states are adopting MDLs, so you can have your driver's license, and now you can also have your passport in the Apple Wallet. So we are seeing that these standards are going to get adoption, and this will be one way to do identity verification. So that's one part of the equation. I think the second thing is uh, this would be my guess. If I were to speculate, what's going to evolve in this space of agents is I think that we're going to need to have a trust system where you will only transact with agents that come with some sort of a trust score. Now, how do we come up with this trust score? Who's going to be the arbiter of the trust score? Is it a trust score, or is there a system of a registry that actually establishes that to be determined. But I imagine there will be some system of trust scores or a trust graph that allows an agent to trust another agent through some verification or trust mechanism for them to transact or interact with each other. So still developing. I would imagine there'll be some new standards coming up in this space, but I think that's kind of how the space will evolve. It's still early. There is no one way to do this today, but I know that agentic commerce is sort of the next big wave, and for that to flourish, I think we're going to need some way to trust these agents.
Yes, I mean, we did hear a lot of things with ChatGPT, OpenAI, starting the agentic commerce last year, but then it sort of quietened down a bit. I mean, it's because all these things are still in flux. I mean, we're still not even 5 years, half a decade into the AI revolution. A lot of people talk about, 2030 is going to be a big turning point because that's a year with a big zero behind it, and it's sort of 5 years, 6 years, as it was last year, away from now. But, this leads to an accountability question. I mean, an AI agent, of which there'll be plenty more of them this year, makes a decision that costs the company money, or worse, exposes customer data, which, or deletes it, as we just heard about. So right now, who's responsible, and does giving that agent an identity actually help answer the question?
Well, certainly from a pure the traditional controls of who has access to the system and what do they have access to, for sure you're going to need that. And so the current concepts of identities, including agent identities, and then what the agent has access to, is a critical part of moving towards this world where we can trust agents to do what they to do things on our behalf, or to work autonomously on their own with other agents. You're gonna want to track. You need auditability of these things, and so I think that's so. In my mind, I think when I think of identity access management and authorization, consent, these key principles of identity systems, I think are a foundational technology required for us to even develop any form of trust system where agents will continue to do work on our behalf. Now, to be clear, today, most people are kind of addressing this on their own. They're hard coding guardrails or establishing guardrails. But if you want true agentic systems to flourish and interact with an ecosystem, you're going to need standards and protocols and trusted ways of ensuring access and permissioning and consent. So this is why I think the products that we're building, both from Auth0 for AI agents perspective, where we enable developers to build agents that are secure by design, all the way to Okta for AI agents, which is really about giving CIOs and CISOs the visibility, governance, and remediation and control over those agents, so that they can ensure that these agents are really behaving within the bounds of the permissions and systems access that they are supposed to have.
Now, my next question, I guess this is the one before we start talking about the fun F1 stuff, but based on what you just said, my next question is more or less, seems to me like a statement rather than a question, but you're welcome to comment. But enterprises are experimenting with our agents. We saw all that movement last year with announcements being made, and as I said before, this year it's really going to start happening. But as we know, from the MIT, they talk about 95% of these AI projects that boards want seem to stall. I mean, I've heard this stat. I've spoken about it in different interviews. I heard another company talking about 62% of these projects, not going through to production. And so, you're also talking about how they're stalling before they hit production. And security seems to be a primary blocker. And it would seem to me that identity, which is what Okta is offering, is the thing that actually unblocks the pipeline from pilot to production. So we really should see much more action on this front that actually succeeds, as opposed to this talk of AI projects that have stalled or failed this year.
Yes. If you'd asked me this question last October or November, because I did get these questions, hey, can
Yeah.
you predict is 2026 the year of agents? And I think the reason why I was hesitant to make any prediction then was because I don't think model capability was there. But I think where we are today in March, this is just 3, 4 months after that, after from that time period, I do think model capabilities have increased exponentially. They are very capable now. So we had some breakthroughs in December, January, and February. Obviously, OpenClaw being one of them.
Yeah.
Um, I think it has shown everyone what's possible. So I do
Absolutely.
think we will see a lot more applications going to production this year. And so back to like what are the key ingredients in my opinion? I think model capability is one of them, and we've had seen breakthroughs. I think the second part is going to be having the right security and access controls and guardrails. And this is the area that we are, really focused on developing lots of capabilities and moving as quick as we can to provide those capabilities to companies. So I think you will see these two things come together. And this year, my prediction would be that we will see a lot more agent applications going to production and start adding real value to businesses. It's hard to predict whether all of these projects will have the ROI that they're expecting, but I certainly think that we will see a few of these break out where the ROI is going to be pretty obvious, perhaps even significant. And yeah, so I do predict that some portion of these will be in production, and we will have very good stories around them, and so some of these will lead the way, and then others will follow.
The famous American baseball coach Yogi Berra famously said that predictions are really hard to make, especially when it comes to the future. He had all these funny little sayings
Yeah,
that made
yeah,
sense in a funny way. And if you think about it, Okta and Octane, Octane was October, November, December, January, February, March. So 6 months. I mean, half a year just about has gone by since then. And the amount of improvement we've seen in things like Claude and the advancements with Gemini now in 3.1. I mean, OpenAI is now in 5.2, 5.3 rather. I mean, we've seen some
5.4 as of
massive
this morning. Yeah,
jumps.
they
Yeah,
just released a new one.
5.4.
Correct.
Well, there you
As
go.
of
I
this
mean,
morning.
incredible. It's just moving so fast. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's we're incredibly lucky to be alive at this time to see it. I mean, all my life I've been reading all these science fiction books and all these visions of
Hmm.
the future, and I always wondered when is the future going to actually arrive? I mean, Elon Musk talks about you know rockets and his self-driving cars. We're back to living in the future again, which is like, phew, we're back
Yeah.
on track.
Exciting.
Now, to shift gears literally, Okta has a multi-year partnership with the McLaren F1 team, 500 million fans globally. What does identity management look like when you're building a seamless experience for that kind of audience?
Yeah, so we are really excited to partner with them. They've been a great partner for us. Obviously, we have a marketing partnership, but we also have a very interesting business partnership with them. And there are so many McLaren fans, of course, building on 2 years of winning the Constructors' Championship and last year, including the drivers. So they've increased their fan base. And so, McLaren wants to give their fans an amazing experience, a fan experience, whether it's visiting their website, visiting their stores to buy merchandising, or their apps where they're interacting to get the latest on what's happening with the drivers or the cars. Especially this year, we'll hear a lot about the rules and the cars the rules that have changed and the impact of the cars. So they really want to provide an amazing fan experience, and a big part of that is getting login and security right. And so we've partnered with them. We provide all of the login infrastructure for all of their fan experiences worldwide to make sure that fans can log in seamlessly, obviously providing all of our security capabilities. And for them, they want to make sure that they can deliver the 360-degree fan experience, the right merchandising, enable commerce, enable consumption of content. And, just like any other consumer brand, you are trying to build long-term loyalty. And so all of their properties, whether it's web, mobile, and other interfaces and experiences they're building, they really want to make sure that they have a 360 view of their fan and that they're able to deliver the right personalized experience in the right moment. And a big part of that is making sure that they understand who that fan is and what the fan preferences are. And so we're really excited to partner with them and power all of those experiences so that fans get what they want with the brand, and the brand and both the fans get a secure and seamless experience as a result.
So, Shiv, what you just explained kind of answers the question of how you keep that login experience smooth when you've got the madness of the unpredictability of F1 traffic. I mean, especially when McLaren is a team that not only won the Constructors' Championship, but that this, last year, as you were mentioning, quite spectacularly won the Drivers' Championship as well. And, when it comes to F1, you've got all this data, there's telemetry data, there's lap times, there's strategy breakdowns. I mean, you've got identity playing into the delivering of more personalized, richer content. And you touched on that as well, because it needs to be done in a secure and privacy respecting manner. So with those sort of two things that I'm happy for you to comment on, in addition to what you said before, we also have this genius move of Okta getting branding on not just on the McLaren car, but on the overalls of Norris and Piastri. I mean, whoever's idea that was, it's like you picked the right company to be sponsoring the last couple of years, and clearly having the branding on the cars and on the uniforms. I mean, that is one heck of a way for an identity company to really, bring its identity into the forefront on the global stage. I mean, that was strategic genius in bringing a business-to-business infrastructure brand right into people's living rooms.
Yeah, I mean, well, first credit goes to our CISO. That was a really amazing move and timing. So because our brand got the benefit of all the rise of McLaren. But we're not the first business-to-business brand to do this. Obviously, there are many others who have done it. I think for us, it was just educating the world about the critical work that our teams do in securing experiences for employees, for businesses, and for consumers alike. We're a critical technology for lots of companies, and so it's important to kind of get our brand out there that, this is a mission that we're on. We're a neutral, independent platform that's really focused on seamless and secure access for different stakeholders. In terms of the McLaren specific questions, I think just two things I would touch on. Of course, McLaren has millions of fans globally. So, we have a platform that scales reliably to meet their demands and traffic spikes. And then second, this is the nature of identities that I say it's an integration problem. And what I mean by that is identity has to connect with so many downstream systems. So it's a critical enabler for things like marketing, loyalty, communication, personalization. So it's really the bedrock of a lot of capabilities that our customers deliver to their customers. And so, we view identity as an integration problem from the get-go, and that's how we have designed our product, and so that we can meet our customers' needs.
And I mean, it's a core strategy. If you can help an F1 company with their actual IT operations, not just putting your logo on their uniforms, but actually help with their IT, with their fans, with all the back end stuff, with the telemetry, with all that stuff, and the madness and the craziness of the super intense F1 schedule and requirements, you can do it for anybody. I mean, that's a genius way to show companies that you can do it for them, you can do it for you.
That's right. Yeah, we do this for 20,000 companies worldwide. So yes, we've been doing this single. We've been solving for this singular problem space for a very long time, and yeah, our teams take pride in the fact that this is the thing that all of us wake up every morning, and yeah, it's a privilege to be able to provide services to McLaren, but so many other iconic brands in the world.
Absolutely. Now, a couple of questions on the bigger picture and then a couple of questions to close about yourself. But
Yep.
if you could get every CEO to understand one thing about AI agent risk that they probably don't grasp right now, what would it be?
I think it's very simple. I said this in my opening, and I truly believe that, which is to get AI security right, you have to get identity security right. It's
Yeah,
as simple as that.
yeah.
And so, when I think of like this one message, it's just that it's the foundation of everything that you're going to do. If you don't have identity security right, you have no chance to get the other parts. So this is foundational, and if you have this part right, you will be successful with your AI endeavors.
Now, given the fact that, 3 years ago, what we're looking at today would have seemed like science fiction with agents appearing and being able to talk to computers like a human. But let's say 3 years from now, you know, companies have nailed their AI agent government, they're running Okta, they've given life cycles to AI, they've done all the things that you're talking about. So, what does good look like in a world where that is reality? What should look different about how companies operate compared to today, which, again, as I said at the beginning of this sentence, takes into account the fact that ever more powerful AI tools are becoming an ever more integral part of life and are changing the way that business is done to make it incredibly more efficient and safe and secure and profitable and delivering better products and services to consumers. What does good look like by 2030 if people do everything right now?
It's going to be hard to predict 2030 or even 3 years from now, just
Yeah,
because the rate of change is really fast.
yeah.
But I think there are fundamental things that I think will be true 3 years from now or 5 years from now, which is you want to make sure that the systems, whether they are yours or you're working with a vendor, are really tracking the most important things, which is do you know who's logging in, whether it's a human or an agent? Um, uh, does a resource or entity logging in this case, human or agent, do they have permission to what they are accessing, right? Um, and are you able to track all of these events? So there is auditability and visibility. And then finally, if and when there are mistakes or violations of any policy, that you're able to remediate very, very quickly. These principles are probably going to be true regardless of agent or model capabilities, or whether application development changes again, or maybe we all experience new interfaces, right? I think the promise of AI is that maybe we will all have different ways to interact with computers and machines. And even if we have humanoid robots in the mix, these things are all going to be true, even in those scenarios. So I think like those are the first principles that I think about, and I think those requirements will be durable in any of these scenarios. And so hard to predict the actual form and interaction and experience, but I think these principles are things that will probably be true regardless of what shape AI takes in the next few years.
As you were talking just then about humanoid robots, I was thinking of the famous hacker Kevin Mitnick turning up to an office in an AT&T worker's uniform. He's there to fix a problem, and he just let these people through. And of course, it was Kevin Mitnick being a hacker with malicious intent and taking advantage of the fact that people thought he was a good guy coming there to fix a problem. And it made me think of humanoid robots, turning up with an AT&T uniform on there to fix something with the phone system. And I mean, is the receptionist going to question that? And of course, the robot he's got no emotion. You
Yeah,
can't, you won't betray. There'll be no ball of sweat as he's trying to bluff his way
yeah,
in.
exactly.
It's quite funny. Now, without giving me your final statement, because I'll ask that in a couple of questions, but is there anything else
Sure.
that we should know about Okta right now that we didn't already discuss in the last half hour or so that we should know about?
I think the only thing to maybe highlight is, we recognize the space is moving really, really fast, and our customers really need us and solutions from us. So the only thing to maybe highlight is, we're up for this challenge, which is we're going to keep up with the advancements in technologies, and we'll continue to deliver products and capabilities much, much faster than we've ever done before. So that's kind of our commitment to the industry and to our customers. And yeah, the whole team is pretty much up for the challenge to deliver on that
Yeah.
promise.
It'll be fascinating to see what you have as the focus for Octane 2026, which is now more or less 6 months away. So,
6 months
time
away,
moves so
correct?
fast. Yeah. Now, as we get towards the end of the interviews, only a couple of questions to go. I always like to ask everyone that I speak to if you could please share a memory of your first personal computer.
For me, it was Commodore 64. And I actually remember the first, it was a game. So I remember the first game that I played was Facemaker. So that's my earliest memory of interacting with a computer and a game.
And as I've mentioned to a couple of people, the Commodore brand has been bought and sold a few times, but someone's just bought it
Yes.
recently, and they're making a perfect Commodore 64 reborn for the 21st century. Instead of a 6502 chip, it's got an FGPA array in there. It's fully
Oh,
compatible with all
wow.
the games, the cartridges, the tape drives, the joysticks, the disc drives. So you can actually buy a Commodore 64 in 2026 and have that incredible retro experience that you can't get through an emulator. So maybe you should look for one.
Yeah, I was not aware. I learned something
Yeah.
new today. So I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, please do. Now, my second last question, and Commodore 64 was launched at CES in 1982. I mean, decades ago, and we still talk about it today. It's a seminal part of so many people's first computing experiences. Now, so my second last question is to ask if you can please share some of the best advice that you've received in life to help you get where you are today.
Yeah, I guess maybe if there's one thing I can share, was and because I'm a product person and I'm trying to build products for our customers, or whether I'm tinkering, I always think of like, you want to be, it's really stuck with me. You want to be stubborn on your vision, but you want to be flexible in how you get there. And I think that has served me really well as a product leader or technology leader, which is, you want to be stubborn on where you're going, but how you'll get there or the steps you'll take will change a lot. And so being flexible in getting there has served me really, really well. And as I think of the current state we're in and the topic we just discussed and the future that we're about to go into, I think this is pretty good advice, which is, stick to the first principles, be stubborn on your vision, but be flexible in how you get there. And certainly in the journey that we're on at the moment, we require a lot of flexibility in how we achieve the outcomes that we want.
Absolutely. They say it's not the destination, it's the journey. I mean, if it was the same for everyone, exactly the same, there'd be no challenge in life. So,
Exactly.
half the fun is just not making it up as you go along as such, but, figuring it out as you go along based on those foundational principles that you start with the end in mind, you know where you're going, but how you get there is half the fun. So, Shiv, what is your final message to the viewers, listeners, and the readers?
I think you know, I think when it comes to intelligence and AI, I know that we talked a lot about security and security concerns. Those are super important, but I think I'm personally just really excited about the possibilities with the AI and agents specifically. And I know we're talking about agentic this, agentic that, and it's quite a topic. But whether it's 12 or 24 months from now, everything will be agentic, and it will not be a novel thing. It's going to be embedded in everything that we do. And I think that what it enables us, whether you're a knowledge worker, employee, a C-level, CISO, or just a consumer, is going to be pretty phenomenal. So I'm just really excited about the power that all of us are going to have. And of course, we want to use it wisely, and we also want to make sure that it's secured. So, but I'm really bullish about the technology and the capabilities. And companies like ourselves and many others are going to be up for the challenge to make sure that the security capabilities also keep up.
To make sure the future looks like the future again.
Exactly.
Well, Shiv Ramji, President of Ortho at Okta, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. Have a great time at the F1 whilst you're here in Australia, and I do hope we can speak again in the future.
Thank you for having me, Alex, and looking forward to doing this again, either in Australia or when you join us at Octane.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Cheers.